welcome everyone to Spirit Coffee Talk. Thank you so much, as always, for joining us. I'm Ginette, and with me is Lisa and Elyse, and we are the mediums and channelers at Avalon Spirit. And we jump on every Friday and talk about the current things or messages from Spirit, the energetics, the world, you name it. We bring in just different perspectives of, all kinds of things, guides, spirits, professional opinions. Anyways, this week we're going to be talking about the energy of the new moon that's happening this weekend. As well, we kind of touched last week on how planets are starting to move direct, and this is a big thing. And so we're coming into new energy and new flow, new frequencies, a lot of new things on the horizon, which can be really good, but it can also kind of push us to tie up loose ends or really look at things that we've been dragging along behind us so that we can really let those things go. So there's a lot of energy at play right now. And I'm curious, how are you guys feeling? Who's enjoying it?
I feel blessed.
Okay. We're blessed.
Blessed and stressed.
Blessed and stressed. Yes.
Because two things can be true at once. That's what I always say.
Very true.
Lisa?
It's been a week. It's been a lot. There's a lot going on for me, personally and energetically. But, I will say one thing that I can acknowledge is that when the energies at play are to come in and kind of like observe or be still, if you try to outplay that or do something different or force against it, it's like trying to force against a giant wave. And so I think that one of the biggest lessons that I'm experiencing right now, and I can see with a lot of people, is that it's hard to completely surrender to the energy of like rest and retreat and observe and listen, and just observe and be in that kind of stillness space of like kind of the energies when we are in kind of a societal norm of doing. And I know we talked about that at the beginning of the year a bit. But yeah, I think too, when we feel a little bit uncomfortable, for me personally, okay, so when I feel a little bit uncomfortable, I want to do something about it. I want to I want to get out of this funk. I want to move my body so I feel better. And then I had a very humbling experience with that, like very gentle, chill yoga, like almost took me down because I'm going against what my body really needs or what my nervous system really needs. And it's like, okay, humbling experience. But sometimes I don't know what I'm trying to say.
No, I get what you're saying. And I think it's a good point for a lot of people, because even if we look at the amount of pressure and perseverance and pushing through so many have had to do since the pandemic started. So since 2020, there is a huge amount of fatigue and exhaustion and burnout in many different layers, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, that people have been going through. So I don't think there are many people that have a lot in the tank right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a great message, because we do also, after being in such an acute, stressful situation that has essentially become chronic, we need to be able to rest and give ourselves permission. So I think it's great that you're bringing that up, because the more people that talk about that and are like, it is okay to rest, it reminds us like, oh yeah, it's okay for me to rest too. Right? Like, I think it's a valid point right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like on that note, the idea of rest in general in our culture, Western culture, is like, that's a luxury, or it's like, it's a luxury versus a necessity. And I remember even when the pandemic started, it was like, people were kind of joking about like, all I've been wanting is like a week or a month or a weekend where we don't have anything booked. And now we have it. And it's like, it feels like torture. It feels like, I don't know how to do this. And our bodies, when we, let's be honest, we had a hard time with rest before the pandemic, let alone since 2020, and everything under the sun seems to be, coming up on Earth, both individually and collectively. that the chronic stress was already there. And then it's just like, and then we're forced into ourselves, which was very deeply uncomfortable. And a lot of us didn't have, and a lot of us didn't have the tools to hold it or be with it. And then, you know, we're thrust back into life, but there's just all this other stuff whirling around, plus everybody's own individual journeys, which seem to also be very intense. It's intensity on intensity for our sweet little bods.
It's almost like we had to start running off adrenaline at the beginning of 2020. And then, you know, when you run off adrenaline for so long that you're like, got nothing left.
Yep. You burn it right out.
Too much candles burned. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I feel personally, actually.
And, you know, I think that's really interesting too. But, or and, however, one of those. We're entering into a very fruitful energy if we can really respect where we're at physiologically, even emotionally. The energy that we're stepping into now with the new astrological placements is all new, forward moving, forward momentum, clarity, all of those kinds of things are coming forward.
Yeah.
So if we embrace that though, while also acknowledging where we are in our current state, then we can really make it like this harmonious partnership.
A balance,
but if we go into that movement thinking, oh, I have the ability to full on sprint, let's sprint, you're probably going to burn out. But if you're like, okay, I've been sprinting for a long time, so I'm going to slow my pace, but I'm going to go with this momentum, we may have a more realistic approach to the energies that are coming. Yeah.
I love that thought.
Do you feel a sense of like forward momentum? Like, can you sense it in your own? Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. And I feel that it's even in the cards that I pulled. With all the planets essentially going, so before I knew all the planets were going direct, Spirit was saying that like January is the start of something new. We will feel the flow of it come February.
Yeah, I got February too, so much.
Yeah. And so it's interesting because then when we take it back to actual astrology, Monday is when Uranus goes direct. That's the last planet that needs to go direct. And then they were also saying that it takes about 12 or so days for the energy to ramp back up. So although all the planets, we just had Mars go direct, Mercury direct, new moon, change over to Aquarius, plus Uranus direct, it takes like a week and a half or so to get all those energies running, like turning on the systems, so that by February we will really feel the flow. So I think now is a really beautiful time for us to kind of check back in again with our mind, body, spirit resources, energetics, gas tanks, see where we're at and get a really clear picture, and then be real with what we have to offer in terms of energy, right? Like if we're not ready to sprint, then we're not going to set ourselves up to sprint and fail. We're going to set ourselves up to walk or maybe skip, I don't know, dance.
Yeah.
With the momentum energy, because the momentum energy, the way I see it, is getting ready to pick us up and help us kind of flow down a river. So it's like, do we want to swim with the river and give as much as we can? Or do we want to bring our floaty so that the river can carry us on our floaty? And that's a little bit better for our energy. It's kind of like, how do we want to participate with the river that's about to pick us up and make some action happen?
I'm like floaty all day long, man.
Yeah.
Cup holder, the whole bit.
I think that's a great...
Someone's here.
GPS. Welcome.
That's fun.
What do you have for me? One of the things I was going to say was I feel like your point, Lisa, is a really good one, though, because I think a lot of people are feeling this way. And there's a sense of, I always feel like, oh, it's January, it's a new energy, it's a new year, and there often is this like, there's a motivation or an energy behind us that wants us to push forward, wants us to be active and moving and all these things. And that just doesn't feel like the case this year. And that's been confronting for my brain, because normally I'm like, hey, I'm motivated, it's a new year, all these things. But this year the energy really hasn't supported that. And I think we're seeing that in a lot of people. Everybody seems to be feeling that to one degree or another. And even that is like, it's okay for us to surrender to what feels right, even if our brain is like, well, but it's the new year, you need to be motivated, and
Totally.
new year, new you, or, oh, it's a new moon, or, oh, the energies are picking up and things are going to start moving fast. It's like, maybe I can still work with that and support where I'm at. I can still work with that and not try and push myself out of where I just innately am because of my own circumstances right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when we do that, it probably, like, I think in my brain sometimes I want to be like, oh, but if I'm not in the highest vibration for the new moon and blah, 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 like we put these expectations on ourselves that, for me, I feel like if we just surrender to what's true for us, I feel like that is a more in alignment energy than I'm going to push myself through this and raise my vibration and then I'm going to be, like that's often the rhetoric that we hear, and I just don't. I can't do that,
Even
and it
the
feels
words,
out of
I
alignment.
need to push through this makes me like physically ill. Like it literally like triggers something in my like system where I'm like, oh, yeah, that does not resonate with me. Mm-hmm. I was like asking just now and kind of tuning in as you're talking. I had a big aha moment just now, and they gave it to me in a card, and I keep pulling like the aces in my tarot deck. So like the aces, and it's all like new, starting fresh, new, right? And Elyse, when we were talking about like the energy of the new year and being like, do we want to go forward? What are we motivated for? And the energy is picking up for us to move forward. And I feel so much resistance to that because I'm like, I don't have it in me to move forward because of exactly the energy behind the concept of push through it. And my outdated perspective of moving forward is pushing through. And I feel like that is a trigger word or expression for me because it no longer aligns and actually makes me physically ill because of my lifetime of pushing through and the perception that is what we do, right? And it might have been supported a bit, probably more through ego and survival than anything, than like intuitive. But back to the gameplay, I'm here after all that I've learned, after all that I embody and I teach. Still, that same perception of moving forward triggers my subconscious into thinking, pushing through, pushing forward. And it's not the same thing. So I said to Spirit, what are you talking about then? Like how, like I just want to sit and wrap because all my messages is like, it's time to go forward. It's time to move up. It's time to start fresh. And I'm like, I don't want to. I want to be wrapped up here and watch everybody else on their floaties and they're swimming and me being like, toodaloo, I'm out, And they gave me the 8 of Cups. And what that represented to me, the aha that hit me was, it's like, what are you willing? First of all, I got to show you the imagery. Okay, so there she is. And she is walking towards the light here. And she has set this little thing of intention away in this like moving river. And essentially what it is, it's not about not moving forward. It's about letting go of the things that don't serve you and that you can detach from and truly let go. And like we hear that term all the time, let go to that which does not serve you. It's like, as everything is still piled on here because we've got our to-do lists and everything, right? So in my reality, my aha was like, oh, what I'm perceptually doing, unconsciously doing is thinking that I am to move forward with all the same things that I have with me now, which is a yucky feeling because that doesn't resonate. It doesn't feel good and it's heavy and I just want to hunker in and not move then. But if I unload the stuff that truly doesn't serve me, like the outdated beliefs I have about my worthiness and performance, or, like my physical capabilities or my mental or spiritual capability, like whatever it is that I am being really weighted down so that to get on my floaty to go down the river, to go to my next spot or to move through is holding me back because I'm still attached to outdated belief systems. I'm still attached to perceptions that aren't in my greatest good and holding me back. And they're still tied into that old school perspective of having to fight through, push through, put your head down, work through it, you know, motivate yourself to be the best, be on top, blah, 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 you know, it all feels so gross, but I don't have to then stop. It's like unloading absolutely all of that belief system in order for me to like so exposed and vulnerable move forward, because all that armor is gone, all the old belief system, but then that leaves me extremely vulnerable, completely exposed. But it's like, let's go, right? That was a lot to unload, so thank you for giving me the space to do that. But I just had a massive aha moment.
That's beautiful though, and I love that because this forward momentum is simply that. It's forward momentum, whether it's carrying the things you're letting go or it's carrying your desires of progress in something. Like the forward momentum can carry whatever you want it to carry.
Totally.
Right? So be creative and be reflective. And I think exactly what you just explained is a beautiful example, because if we go in, we can see where we're really at versus where we think we should be at, and then actually have the flow work in favor for us.
Totally.
Right? I think, and I have to show you this because this just like aligns so much. So this first card here is like paradigm shift. So we're literally with this flow in front of a new door that's opening, a new door, new energy, something new. It's all based on turning inward with this heart transmission card, like turning inward. And if we do that, we get on the highest vibrational life path for ourselves. I know, right?
Those
so
cards
chubby.
What are those cards, Ginette?
These are the Light Worker Oracle by Alana Fairchild. They're really nice for like collective messages or like your bigger spiritual higher self life path messages. I find them really accurate for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that baby card is like new life or new birth or
life path.
Life
path. So like it can represent different pieces, but in this respect, I really feel like by walking through this new doorway, which is what the energy is facilitating, we're walking through, if we do so from our heart space, into greater clarity, movement on our life path, our soul's
You're really truly on
destiny.
Your new path. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So it
takes a bit of the pressure
fantastic.
off too. Like, and that might go into my like old school hardcore Aries
100%.
thing. And like the way I was raised was very, very, very like masculine, like doing, performing, you know, number one only, you know what I mean? And so I feel like some of these programming beliefs that are so deeply embedded into our DNA, like our nervous system, our cellular structure, the way in which our brain has developed and connected and made of life, our perception, are so deeply ingrained in this perspective, because that's kind of the phase that we're coming out of, right? Is that. And it's I don't know, for me, I say you, but I'm talking directly of like my reflection right now on how I'm seeing like it can be difficult, I guess, to sometimes come face to face with this realization, because just because something is for your best interest doesn't mean it's comfortable. Lots of times not. Is, you know, if it's the same and you're used to it, doesn't always mean that it's the best for you either. Like, it, you know, so I feel like a lot of what I know truly I'm being called to do, react, you know, for myself, actually contradicts my unconscious everything, the way that it's all been put together, from my belief systems to the way that I interact, to the way I eat or when I sleep. Like, I'm talking everything. But it's like, this forward movement, it's happening. So I'm already going. The water is taking me, but it's just kind of like, I'm like, holy smokes, this is tough. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Sometimes I think too, when we have like messages that are like, okay, there's forward movement, or it's a big like Saturday's new moon is like one of the most powerful moons for manifesting. And I know for me and my body, coming from this place of push, rise, make things happen, right? This like default setting that many of us have. My brain wants to go like, okay, well, you need to figure your shit out. Like, what do you want? Where are you going?
Make a
Tell us
list.
what's happening.
Manifest means doing.
Totally. Yeah. And it makes me feel like, okay, well, if I'm, to your point, Lisa, like I'm struggling this week, or it's been really intense, or I'm feeling really exhausted or drained or run down, I can't carry that with me. I can't bring these things forward because what if I da da da? And like my mind spins with pressure about the energy.
Totally.
But I think we have to remember that like, it's the forward momentum or forward movement is for our highest good. So if we're showing up in our true selves, where we're at, what's happening for us, if our life feels like it's a shit show right now, then that's how you're feeling. And maybe your forward movement is like, my forward movement is releasing all the things that I'm having to carry emotionally. I'm not saying that they're going to clear up and be better, but that's kind of the next point of it, is that oftentimes when I hear forward momentum, I'm like, okay, this is happening right now. And my brain kicks into, well, that doesn't make any sense. Your life is what it is. It's not going to change in a day. It's not going to, not all these things that are stressing you out or that you're carrying or that are feeling really heavy for you are not just going to change overnight with this forward momentum. But that's not what it is. That's my brain's controlling perception to try and either make myself feel safe, or because I am putting all this pressure on myself to kind of subtly self-sabotage me to not do the work that I know will support me. And when I say work, I don't mean like fix your problems. I mean, freaking care for yourself. That could be, that can be the work too. Have a nap, Elyse. How about that? Whatever it is, our brains, I think, I saw this post the other day that said like, our feelings are not facts. And it was by the holistic psychologist. And I loved that because they feel like facts. They're real and we experience them, but they're messengers for what's happening internally. They're not the reality. They're not the fact. They're the messenger saying, hey, X, Y, and Z that is part of your 3D reality right now is making you feel X, Y, and Z. How do you want to deal with that? And I think sometimes for me, the feelings can just become so overwhelming and so intense, especially when we're depleted, which is what we started talking about today. When we're so depleted, it's like we can't separate what's real and what's not. And so then we hear forward momentum and action potential, and it creates this panic because I'm like, oh my gosh, my feelings say that my life is a mess. And, when I actually pause and look around, I'm like, no, things are pretty okay. And I'm good. And I'm safe in this moment. And what belief systems, like you were saying, Lisa, what am I carrying forward or holding in me right now that are perpetuating my suffering in whatever way that is?
Perspective.
And, yeah. And not to poop on them, because they also are there either placed on us by people, society, our life, whatever, or they were coping mechanisms that did serve us at some time in our life. So it's like, if I have an energy of like push through, fix it, make it happen, which is very much my default setting as well, I don't need to like crap on myself for that either. I can just know that like, this is the default setting that you go into when you are overtaxed. How can you pause?
Come up for me too. Compensatory strategies that I've developed to keep myself safe.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in control, I feel safe. And so even the idea of like forward momentum, forward energy, that can also feel really scary, because it's like, what does that mean? Where am I going? And
exactly. And your brain can't go somewhere without knowing where I'm going, because I can't fail at it.
Yeah.
I can't fail at forward momentum.
Yeah. And if we're thinking,
I'm not ready to excel.
if that means in our brain that's happening tomorrow, which the reality is it's not, it's a forward momentum. You know, you don't just jump in a stream and magically you're at the ocean. It takes time to get there.
Right.
If we're thinking that though, if that's our perception, like, oh, forward momentum means X, Y, and Z is happening right now, and we have this fear of uncertainty, more fear, more. So it's, again, coming back to what you were saying, Lisa, it's like, where can I just meet myself where I'm at and hang up the things that are anchoring me down a little bit and just like,
and create my own
surrender.
container, create my own floaty or whatever it is to go down the river. It's like, that's one thing that I felt with Mars going direct was, it was almost like that forward movement. What happened for me when it went direct was everything that kind of filled my container was filled with like my own like thoughts and worries and like this, and what am I going to do? And I'm in charge of this and taking care of this, and I need to be this person for this. And like, when I get enough energy, I'm going to have this and this. And it, all of a sudden, Mars goes direct. I go back and it is all like, and it kind of got washed out, not washed away, but it all kind of just like splurted all over. And so I'm like,
the collective cards that I pulled, the Great Severing, Mars energy.
Yes.
Softening to love. Yeah.
Totally.
Anger, conflict, and softening to love.
That's exactly it. So then now I'm left with this wide open space, and I know it's forward moving time, but I'm in my own little personal container, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to take with me on this journey? I really feel like I'm supposed to take but am I? Or is that just because it feels really safe when they're right close? But really, that's like weighing me down, right? And so like, when it kind of washed all in front of me, I'm able to clearly see like, okay, whoa, that was in there for that long. Like, oh no, I don't want that one. You know what I mean? And like, bringing with you in your own container that you are creating, and that serves as your boundaries. That serves as your like safety circle, your like energy field, everything. And that is this like floating container that you get to take down the river in this forward momentum. And down the river, we say into, you know, the destined area of where you're to be, right? Without this perspective of perfection.
I think too, one thing, when we're in that phase of like, maybe we could call it the void right before, when everything's washed out, or maybe it's just that moment of, you know, like before the paradigm shift, you see the door, the metaphorical door. Sometimes in that transition energy of walking over that threshold, we're walking into something new. So when energy starts moving, it's a new frequency or a new template. And sometimes just the feeling of that newness, especially if you've been feeling like you're releasing, acknowledging, shedding layers, you're feeling more vulnerable. Then when you're paired with something new, even though it could be a very, very good new, sometimes the new can be really triggering because you don't know what it is. And all you're searching for is security, safety, and comfort. But new is not known yet. It takes time to get to know it. So what happens is often people will then run back to what is known, even if, you know, they don't like it. It's known and predictable, and there's a certain amount of calm in that. So I think there's a little bit of grace we can give ourselves and reminders when we're feeling the new energy. If it feels a little triggering in terms of anxiety and unknowns, is to give yourself some grace and time to step by step experience what is the new template. Right? Like, just pause, just catch your breath. You don't have to take another step forward right now until you're ready, but step into the new. Yeah.
And being gentle with yourself when you find yourself in old patterns or old thought patterns or whatever, when it's like, when you go back to what you knew because it's comfortable and safe or whatever, but not necessarily the best for you, like, that is part of being human too. Like, you can do 4 steps forward and 1 step, you know, like sometimes we find ourselves back in situations, but the key is that you're conscious of it. Like, I'll have like old patterns or something that I'll find myself in, especially when I'm like uber vulnerable. And then I'll come down on myself and be like, I cannot believe I went back into that compensatory strategy. I can't believe I resorted back into that belief system or whatever. But it's like, no, it's okay, Lisa. Like, you had that as a coping mechanism at this time. Give yourself some grace. It's okay during change when you go back into these things. Like we have this big, I don't know, expectation of self, especially during growth. Yeah.
Right? Like that, like, okay, well, I cut that off, I'm done. But sometimes it'll filter back in, right?
Totally.
And that's okay. And I had to learn that one too. Like, it's okay if that thought comes back or that judgment or the whatever. See it. Just ask, is it still valuable? Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Instead of like, why is it back? Why is it, like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Let it ride.
Yeah.
What you resist will persist.
Well, and it's that idea of like cycling upwards, right? Versus cycling in place, where we feel like, oh, this thing is back. I thought I dealt with this. I thought I let this go. I released it. the last friggin' new moon or whenever, right? Because these are things and themes that we talk about a lot. But I think it's the reminder that like, you're not just like peeling the whole onion in one foul swoop, right? It takes time and layers.
That's enough to make you cry.
Yeah. New situation. Yeah. Wear goggles.
Wear goggles.
Have you seen the TikToks where
life
people
wearing goggles? That's right.
Have you seen the TikToks where people put their hoodies up and then they put like a glass
pan lid,
like pot cover it?
Totally.
Like an astronaut. No. Anyways,
that's funny.
But like remembering that cycling upward is still upward movement, and our quest to always be, not always, because I think that can be some harm in like always trying to heal and fix, and that goes back to what we were saying, right? It's a push energy when sometimes we have to just like let ourselves be damaged if we are, right? Like that's okay. Let ourselves be exhausted, let ourselves be drained. But when we are in a place of we're trying to evolve consciously, and we're even having the perspective of like, I'm going to allow myself to be in this moment is conscious evolution. If we are choosing to do that in our life in a day-to-day way, whatever that looks like, even if that is pausing and allowing yourself to be a messy, mucky human, that energy inherently means you're cycling up, right? Even because you're putting the perspective in, you're taking time to even think about what's happening. Why am I in this cycle again? Like that is awareness. If you can see that you're cycling, there's an awareness level in that. And hopefully you can remember that so that we're not so hard on ourselves all the time, because I think that's just so easy to do. What did you get, Lisa? Chuckling over there.
It's like over and over.
Eight of Swords?
Same thing. Right when I think it's going to be like such a good pull, then it's like, just kidding.
That's funny.
Okay, so break it down. So I got the 10 of Cups at the beginning, which I'm like, yes, harmony, one big happy family, like taking everything that we've worked for. It's like I love getting the 10 of Cups. And then it's followed by justice, right? Having that balance, light, dark, And then over and over, I get poopy cards. So I got the 10 of Wands.
That's a good one.
With the 9 of Wands. So I got these two together. And then to finish off with Judgment again.
Those are fantastic.
So what is the 9 and 10 of Wands then together?
So 9 and 10 of Wands is a transition point of like having been through a huge journey and being able to put down your burdens. Like 10 of Wands is literally putting down your burdens, putting down the things on the long journey. So exactly what you're talking about of like wanting to just clean it all out. Mars took it all out and you're picking out what you want. 10 of Wands is often a guy trying to carry too many things. And it's about him putting them all down, not carrying it anymore. So I would say you're in a transition from 9 to 10 to the culmination of changing things. And Judgment coming after that is exactly that. Judgment is that big question, change point in your life of where do you want to go now? Where are you going now? And so going from 9 of Wands to 10 of Wands is that transition of like, I don't want to carry these wands anymore. So I'm going to put them down. And the universe is like, yes, that's a great thing.
So then starting with the 10 of Cups and the Justice then, like, is this like the idealist or is it just like reveling in your stuff? Yeah.
That's your goal. And that's what you are working towards. And so by the actions you're taking, you're bringing it back into balance, right? And the actions you're taking is moving from carrying all those wands to putting those wands down and choosing to be
I
conscious.
love this 10 of Wands too. It's a woman. And look, she's wearing
Yeah.
that like white flowy dress.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally you.
That's exactly what you've been. We've all been talking about as
Yeah.
far as even personal
The
journeys,
journey,
collective
putting
journeys.
things down. Literally
Yeah.
putting it
100%.
down, saying, I don't
Yeah.
want you to come with me. Oh, that's really interesting. Because I put it back. I'm like, no, I don't want you. And it came out again. I'm like laughing. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's really funny.
So the great severing, Mars, anger, conflict, but then softening to love, which is what we've been talking about. Then the golden children, inner child, tenderness, supporting yourself, connecting with your inner child, and then remembering that Earth School,
Yes.
which sometimes
you
this
come
card
here to
annoys
learn?
me because I'm like, I know, we know.
Go away.
I signed up for this. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But that is
You're
a
like,
part
can
of
I
the
see
lesson.
that contract?
It's a part of the lesson, like how I see with that too is like that Mars energy, but the inner child stuff is so big because it's like we were talking about where we developed these compensatory strategies, where we developed these belief systems of self, or what we have to do to be able to like fit within the societal structures that literally keep us safe. And then all of a sudden we come in this huge paradigm shift and we're like, hold on a sec. Not everything, but so much of what I believe to be true is like no longer resonates in my like whole frequency. And then that's Earth School. That is like transcendence.
shift.
That is where that's the point.
It's like taking the kid's dirty like safety blanket away, right? That feels, even though it's like icky and needs a good wash-in and, you know, needs to be removed for a little bit of time, the feeling of taking that away feels completely uprooting and vulnerable and scary and all of that. And then we can replace it with a new blanket, or we can replace it with new behaviors or thoughts or beliefs that are going to actually serve us now, maybe not the stinky old blanket anymore. And I think too with that, whenever people talk about letting go, I sometimes have this like internal response of like, but I don't want to lose these things. I don't want to lose whatever. And it's not that we have to lose it, but we can just like put it aside and we can revisit it in nostalgia and reflection and our life experiences, but we don't have to like pack it with us everywhere we go. It can still live in our experience and, you know, be something we think about and reflect on, but it doesn't have to be, because it's probably not
In the
doing what it's meant
container
to
anymore.
anyways.
Yeah. Love it.
Well,
That was
lovely.
heartfelt. Yeah. Thanks so
Yeah.
much for holding space for this. This is really good.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And I think,
Therapy Friday, Spirit Coffee Talk.
right?
Yeah.
But I think it's timely going into this new moon, which really like precedes the new energy. It's like, just see where you're at, see what you want, and go from there. That's it. That's all that matters, is where you're at.
Totally.
And create from that point. And I think there's a lot that this year can give back to us if we choose to see it in that perspective, in the form of like giving back in the form of gifts, not just tough lessons, but like blessings, divine alignment, synchronicities in various different ways. I really think that's available. And so now is a great time to say like, okay, I do want that, right? And try and hold some of that in your frequency.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ginette, do you want to end us off with some like wonderfulness? A book of amazing?
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yes. Okay. So for anyone who is just feeling a little bleh these days, I found this book. So Spirit said, we have this little library over there. Going too fast. They're like, go down there and find a book. I'm like, I've read them all. They're like, no, you haven't. I'm like, yeah, I totally have. They're like, no, you haven't.
You don't know me.
So I go down and I'm looking, and then I see this book. I'm like, the Book of Awesome? So this book is full of just awesome moments. And I'm going to pick, I don't know, maybe 3? Should we pick 3?
Yeah.
And it just adds that frequency of experience to help your vibes go up a little bit. So let's just randomly see. Okay. Okay, awesome moment number 1 is the smell of the coffee aisle in the grocery store. Right? You know, when you walk
Actually.
down that aisle and you're like, yes.
That's
the
good.
smell of
Also,
coffee.
so perfect for Spirit Coffee Talk.
Yeah.
Right? So true. Okay, the next one. Oh, peeling an orange in one shot.
Ooh.
Isn't that a satisfying feeling?
Yeah. That's
That's
skill.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, that is. Okay,
Love that.
last one. Seeing somebody laugh in their sleep. Isn't that the funniest but most heartwarming? You're like, what are you dreaming of?
Oh my gosh. I actually think I've only seen that maybe like once in my life.
It is
Somebody
like
laugh in
sacred.
their sleep.
It is sacred. Okay, one last bonus
Okay,
one, just
okay.
because we can use it going to the
Yeah.
new
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Paying for something with exact change.
Ooh.
Isn't that a
Satisfying.
satisfying feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One that
And you
keeps
almost
coming
like
up for
look
me.
up at them and you'd be like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Exact change. And they're like,
I did
sorry,
that.
Bitches.
7
I did
nickels.
that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
The extension of that is when all of your socks match in the laundry.
That's a good one too. It's definitely a good
I
one.
don't know if that's ever happened to me.
It's a
Because I
rare
have like
occurrence.
30,000 little tiny mini ones, right?
Yeah, right?
Yes.
True. It is a rare occurrence. It is satisfying though.
Yeah,
It is
that's
satisfying.
awesome.
I definitely recommend this for anyone. Keep it on your nightstand, your bedside table, as just a pick me up. This year, Spirit kept saying, like, laughter and joy is going to be your best way to hold a higher frequency, no matter how you're feeling physically, all of that. This is almost like a Bible for 2023.
Love it.
And I mean that in the nicest of ways. I don't mean that derogatory towards any religion, or this is a sacred book. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
A sacred book for frequency.
Mhm.
Love
High
it.
vibe. If you
Love
want
it.
high vibe and you want to ingest goodness, this is just full of it. And so I really recommend it.
Thank you for bringing it to the table today.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Much needed.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much, as always, for joining us on Spirit Coffee Talk. We're so grateful to have you. If you're new, thank you so much for checking it out. We hope you enjoyed it. Do share, subscribe, hit that like button, and also check out avalonspirit.com for tons of offering resources, courses, and things really to help you on your journey. So thank you, as always, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.